Alright folks, welcome to another beer review, and today it's a much long overdue visit back to Mikkeller, and we're having a look at the Japanese rice lager, brewed at De Prof, 5% ABV, 440ml can. Keith Shaw's artwork absolutely fantastic as per usual. Obviously since Brexit, don't really get too much Mikkeller. Well, we do, but I don't think anywhere near as much as we do, aside from like the supermarket stuff. And yeah, so when I saw this in Rehills in Newcastle, after a little jaunt, I definitely had to pick it up. And yeah, Mikkeller, one of my all-time favourite breweries. That one of those breweries that really, for me, as someone who, like, it always sounds really fucking wanky, which I am wanky. I'm a twat. I'm a hipster, wanky, pretentious twat, and I own it. But you know, I've always loved like graphic design. Some of my favourite like people are illustrators. Alright, that purposely was to come across like a little bit of a twat, but yeah, just that whole like marriage of art and beer. And I think the industry now compared to something like 5 years ago has definitely grown in that way, where breweries have a real sort of like identity. And yeah, it's hard pressed now to find a brewery that's got shit artwork and shit branding. Not that branding means everything, because you can't polish a turd, and a piece of shit sprayed gold is still a piece of shit. But you know, we're consumers. We buy with our eyes, and yeah, if a brewery's got eye-catching artwork on the shelf, and whatever how many brewery beers being sold on that same shelf don't compare to that aesthetically or appeal as much as that, then of course you're naturally going to gravitate to that. But you know, you look at the beer, you see what's in there, you see what style it is, and yeah. But Mikkeller, Keith Shaw, one of like those iconic sort of breweries in that sense, and a great brewery nonetheless, even though recently I think they've ceased brewing in America. I'm not sure if it's their whole American side of things, and I know and I never pronounce this correctly, but I'll say it as I always say it, Baghaven. I know that they're ceasing production, but they've still got beers that they're aging and they're going to still release. So I'm not too sure really what is going on with Mikkeller in that regard. But definitely, and it's not just Mikkeller, it's a lot of European breweries in general, especially, well, the two sort of like main ones for me, where we very rarely see the amount of same amount of beers that we used to, is Mikkeller and Tuol. You know, both Danish breweries. Obviously, you know, Tuol was birthed from Mikkeller. I'd love to go to Denmark. That's like one of my real sort of craft beer pillages. I'm not going to pillage, but I'm going to make, not pillage, pilgrimage. Definitely not going to pillage, because I don't have that in me, and quite frankly, I don't have the manpower to do that. Plus, that doesn't fall in line with my morale and sensibilities. But yeah, I've always had a really, it's not even, I wouldn't say soft spot, but just a real love and appreciation for Mikkeller as a brewery. I know there's been controversies along the way, even as early as, you know, the whole conception of Evil Twin and that sort of stuff, but there's been some big things said by notable people involved in Mikkeller. But yeah, and I think a lot of that, not only is it, well, the main thing is the beer's really good, but also it's the branding. It's Keith Shaw's iconic artwork. You know, you've got Keith Shaw, you've got obviously I had names just ready to spew out, but as soon as I go to mention those names, they disappear. Carl Grandin, yeah, mine's gone blank. But you know what I mean. I really like good design. I like good artwork. I like good illustration. I like good use of typography. And yeah, so on a hipster, pretentious level, not only do I really enjoy Mikkeller beer, and being part of the Mikkeller Beer Club for the time that I got to drink some amazing beers, not only from Mikkeller, but also guest beers that I may not have really been able to have drank at the time, although it's a lot easier now somehow to get some really, you know, box ticking beers from abroad here in the UK. I'm not too sure if I could still even join the Mikkeller Beer Club, especially with the whole Brexit side of things. I know that with the Too Old Beer Club, I only got to have one box, and then it all went to shit, and then they just completely ceased the whole shipping to the UK. And it's really sad because I do miss drinking Mikkeller on a somewhat regular basis. And when I was in London, I made a point to go to, well, I've been to the brew pub, and I've also been to the Mikkeller bar in Shoreditch. And of course you had to snag yourself some beer mats and brand appropriate glassware. Severely lacking on my Mikkeller merch because it's very, very expensive. Although I do have a really nice Mikkeller and Bunderbust collaboration. I'm sounding like one of those wanky Brownhill and Co. sort of people who is just trying to show off with their fellow beer drinkers. But hey ho, it is what it is. And what it is what it is. So when I was in Rehills in Newcastle, or on the way back from Newcastle, I saw this, and there was a can of the Mikkeller Beer Geek Breakfast, and I was like, oof, memories. So I had to pick this up because I'm a massive fan of lagers, and I know Mikkeller can brew a damn good lager. And yeah, and look at the artwork. It's got that Mikkeller, obviously, iconic sense, but it's not like cliche Asian style. It's not in your face. It's got a real authenticity to it, and yeah, Keith Shaw is just an absolute genius. But we're already at 8 minutes, and I've not even opened up the can. I've just been waxing lyrical about Mikkeller. I'm just so glad that I'm drinking a Mikkeller beer, to be honest. One of my, you know, top 5 favourite breweries. And yeah, so whenever I get the chance to pick some up, I've clearly not ceased upon that chance because we've not had a Mikkeller review for quite a while. I know some of the Spontan stuff still comes over here. Good friend Adam Beers was showing me a website that's got like the Spontan Friedrich style, and I'm like very, very tempted because that was beautiful, and the Friedrich style cherries are just beyond chef's kiss. But anyway, so we've got a rice lager today, and it looks exactly like one would expect a rice lager to look like. A little bit of haze in there. Beer poured with, I made a weird breath sound then. Not sure if that picked it up. I'm massively overweight and even more unhealthy. That wasn't a proper formulated sentence. I've just sniffed it for no reason. It's got that sort of like macro rice lager sort of aroma. You're getting that sort of like starchy character coming from the rice. You know when you've like done I've done microwavable rice, or you've done, you know, proper rice in a pan, and you lift the lid off and you get that like hit. You're getting that. There's a little bit of a citrusy note coming through. But yeah, it's definitely got that starchy, freshly opened microwavable rice sort of character. But it works beautifully well. Little bit of a sort of like a slight fermented biscuity sort of aroma. You can try and come up with as many pretentious notes as you possibly can. It just smells like a really nice lager. There's a little bit of funk to it. It's got a little bit. It's a little bit different than, you know, your usual rice, usual lagers. But of course, you know, rice is a great way, you know, to incorporate grain into a beer. And I'd imagine a lot of the time it's a little bit more cost effective. But yeah, smelling very, very good indeed. And I've committed way too long on this video, so we'll try and keep this as short as we possibly can. Cheers. Really nice body to it. It's not overly carbonated. There's a sort of almost like Keller feel to it. There's a bit of smoothness. I mean, obviously it's a little bit more carbonated than other styles would be, with it being a lager. But it's got a real sort of like rounded, smooth character. A little bit of a peppery note. You are definitely picking up that rice, like a plain rice flavour. And there's something really satisfying about just having plain rice. I don't know what it is, but then again, I did have a phase of just very lightly seasoned chicken fried up with dry pasta, and that to me was just for some reason, really satisfying dish. There's a bit of like a perfumey edge in between you inhaling as you drink and then that back end. Very fragrant. It's really, really satisfying. It's not your sort of normal lager, I would say. And it does very much remind me of like a Keller beer or a Zwickel or something like that. Because there's this earthy, spicy grassiness, but you get a lot of grassiness in a lot of lagers anyway, to be fair. But it's definitely a beer that you could pair with food, although lagers go with pretty much every sort of dish, really, aside from sweet dishes. But you know, this with, and I'm not sure if, you know, this is one of those beers that would be available in some of their ramen to biru or biru ramen restaurants, but I think this would work really well with a nice bowl of ramen. I feel ick for using this word because it sounds like I'm being stereotypical, but it does have a little bit of an oriental feel, and it's making me think of another brewery that I've not drank a beer from for much longer than my last Mikkeller beer. But Hitachino Nest, another brewery that to me has got some of the best branding, and just is so aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, there is that whole like maize, rice sort of association with soulless macro lagers, but this just has a little bit more character than that. In fact, a hell of a lot more character than that. But there is a very subtle citrusy edge, and because I've mentioned the word oriental, I'm instantly thinking of like lemongrass, maybe a hint of coriander, those sorts of flavours. But what I will say is it's a very, very good lager. Is it the best lager I've ever had? No. Is it the best lager I've ever had from Mikkeller? No. Is it really nice and worth the £3.85? I would say so. Although probably, and I did pick up a bottle of this in the same shop, Augustina Lagerbier Hell, I probably would go for the Augustine, because that to me is the best beer in the world. That's my favourite beer of all time. But I would happily have that again. And I just wish, I don't like, especially with such great artwork, that they use this like vacuum sealed approach. But I think that's very much a de-prof sort of thing. Obviously, you know, they're a contract brewer, really, so they can't, you know, be as intricate as the brewery itself. They've got, you know, they brew to like order, to like standards that are put on them, so they're very sort of industrious. So I completely get that, but I'd love to be able to peel that off, back it on some card, very intricately and precisely cut out the label with a guillotine, which I do because I'm sad and I have no life and I haven't had sex for 3 years. But the less said about that, the better, really. Oh God, I don't know why I laugh like that. I'm scum. But yeah, anyway, lovely. Oh, the Jimmy Savile's come out. Lovely lager. And if you've tried it, let me know your thoughts, opinions down below. If you see it, give it a try, especially if you like lagers, or you like lagers, you want something a little bit different. And yeah, I'm just glad to be drinking another Mikkeller beer, because I absolutely love Mikkeller. And yeah, great brewery. And if you ever get a chance to visit any of their bars or restaurants that they own, definitely do yourselves a favour and check them out, because they're just they just brew really good beer. And yeah, I just wish I was able to get more of it on a much more regular basis than I do. Anyway, I'm actually really tempted to see if I can get back into the Mikkeller Beer Club. Is the Mikkeller Beer Club still going? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Mikkeller. Anyway, if you've tried it, let me know your thoughts, opinions down below. Links in the description to Mikkeller, and I've reviewed a hell of a lot of Mikkeller beers a long time ago, so please feel free to check them out. Anyway, I'm foaming at the mouth for no reason. I've probably not got that much longer left on this earth. If it happens, it happens. See you guys later. Take care and peace. Don't say peace.